Hello and welcome to A Digital Industry, from robots to the millennial generation. My name is Michael Bricker and I'll be your tour guide through this 3-hour presentation. In this course, we examine the various ways, multidimensional ways in fact, that technology, changes in demography, and cultural forces combine and are reshaping the business of insurance in unusually rapid fashion. That is, advances in technology ranging from social media to satellite imagery to three-dimensionally printed human hearts have already begun to reshape the 21st century underwriting model. In fact, we might characterize the 19th and 20th century underwriting models as that of the law of large numbers, while the 21st century will no doubt come to be characterized as the century of big data, and of course, other technological advances involved in creating a more real-time underwriting environment. Further, we'll consider the cultural, demographic, and economic changes wrought by the generational transition occurring before our eyes. That is, the slow takeover by the millennial generation of our nation. And we see already the impact in politics, in the workplace, in society in general of this very unique generation. And we must ask, over the next 10 years, what becomes of our agencies, our brokerages, our claims operations, communication, advertising, and marketing even, as the millennials increasingly become our primary source of new employees and our primary source of new customers. What are and what will their demands be, and can we meet those expectations? Furthermore, we'll consider the way technology and other forces are changing communication, the way in which whether advertising and marketing, communicating with clients, the channels we use, and of course, the compliance issues surrounding a communication environment that is advancing far faster than regulatory directives. And finally, we'll bring it all together in a parallel universe discussion towards the end of this program and try to foresee as much as anyone can the future, especially the next 10 years, in an attempt to better prepare each of us for developing systems and better management practices within our firms and directed at our clients to ensure success in what will clearly be a very rapidly changing decade. I mentioned earlier satellite imagery. If you're not familiar with Google Earth, and this is in fact Google Earth Pro, let me introduce you to what is a free service, as are many services provided by Google. Now, you can download this software. I encourage you to do so. It's fascinating, both professionally and personally. But Google Earth Pro is simply an array of satellites that provide, as you'll see in a moment, detailed imagery, even street-level imagery of almost any area on the planet. Naturally, the information is updated more frequently in metropolitan areas than it is in faraway rural areas. The Google Earth framework is used increasingly by mapping programs and a variety of other geolocation tools, including the location of your Uber driver as they're on their way to pick you up. But Google Earth Pro, and a key point to be made, used to be a fee-based service. Google Earth was free, Google Earth Pro was fee-based, and because it offered more real-time, more recent imagery. About 2 years prior to the recording of this video, Google Earth Pro relaunched as a free service. Meaning what? Meaning that our insurers, your agencies, your claims operations for free may now examine almost any area of the planet. Of course, we'll limit our scope to the United States and look in detail at a subject property, a commercial premises, perhaps the design or layout of a highway system in the case of an auto accident and loss. Simply by typing in an address or more generally a location as I've done here. You'll notice we're looking at the downtown area of Oklahoma City. I simply typed in Oklahoma City into the search field of Google Earth Pro. And from this vantage point, you can literally move away or toward, up and down and around in 360 degrees in a three-dimensional direction to inspect perhaps property risks, not to mention adjacent exposures to an insured property, to examine roadways. Was there a stop sign at that intersection? Was it a four-way stop? Was it a two-way stop? And notice from the convenience of your own desk, frankly, wherever your laptop, your tablet, your phone might be located. And as you can imagine, this tool increasingly used not only in pre-binding inspections of potential risks to be insured, but allowing now agencies and portfolio or home office underwriters to re-underwrite risk far more frequently than ever before. Perhaps a business in a strip mall we wrote a year ago, well, today we want to know not only the general condition of that property, has there been any significant changes in construction or other features of that particular business, and equally, as it's now been 12 months, what are the adjacent businesses? Have they changed? And does that materially change the risk that we've insured and considering for renewal? Perhaps we've written a trucking firm and we want to count, or at least over time monitor, the number of units that we generally see in their parking area. Has a business that began with 3 units that are currently insured under a trucker's coverage policy. Now, well, we re-inspect 6 months or 9 months or 12 months later, we discover there are 12 or 15 units routinely parked in that parking lot, giving us then cause to give the insured a call and make sure of the adequacy of that commercial auto coverage. So ultimately, an opportunity to inspect buildings, and in a way we couldn't before. It isn't just more frequently than we were likely able to when one had to travel out to that particular location, but equally, for example, in a multi-level building, in the past, an exterior inspection involved an underwriter or an agent standing at ground level and looking up. Now, very much like a drone might offer us, we can look at the exterior condition of a building, the roof area as well as easily from our desk as from anywhere else, and do so once again in 3 dimensions, 360 degrees. We can measure distances to fire response and other emergency response, and in some augmented reality systems, we can develop information like elevation, used of course in flood insurance coverage and eligibility, and a vast array of other data as well. Location of fire hydrants, water sources, and again, information that was not conveniently available at any point in the past. We can drill down, if you will, to the street level view. As I mentioned earlier, this gives us the opportunity to inspect each level of a building on a multi-story structure and adjacent structures as well. We can look for, especially in metropolitan areas that are ever changing, changes in nearby risks, traffic patterns, or changes in the business itself that might trigger a phone call, a re-underwriting of that risk. So for example, and it's facetious of course, but if a year ago We wrote a bookstore, and we take a look now at the window signage of that store, and it now says bookstore and massage parlor. Well, we might want to send somebody out to talk to the owners, the insureds, and consider continuing eligibility of that risk. A residential home that now has a bed and breakfast sign in front of it. So especially for evolution and property and casualty, residential and commercial as well, tools like satellite imagery allow us to underwrite and re-underwrite risks with a frequency and cost effectiveness that has never been available before, not only from field offices, but of course from home offices as well. Now, in addition to satellite imagery, let's add the science of telematics. Now, if you're not familiar with telematics, and you probably are, you just may not know it by that name or that title. Telematics are the range of devices that communicate in real time with the insurance company. They began some years ago as plug-in devices into automobiles. If the auto-insured or applicant agreed in advance, we would install a device in their car that would give us basic information about driving behaviors, hard stops, hard turns, rate of speed, etc. What began as plug-in devices in automobiles, perhaps some 7 or 8 years ago, has now expanded into an array of communication tools that, remember, are providing real-time and near constant information to the insurer. The plug-in devices became wearable technology. There are life insurers today that will, upon policy issue, deliver to the policyholder some form of wearable tech, what might be a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or any of the array of wearable communication tools, providing to the life insurer now in near real-time basis the sleeping habits, heart rate, blood pressure, and other important and ongoing and likely evolving health risk profiles to the life or health insurer. In addition to wearable technology, even our own devices, that is our phones, if you're as old as I am, we call it a phone, or your tablets, as you'll see very soon, are today, can today communicate in real time with the insurer, providing information once again about driving behaviors, especially these are beneficial tools in the auto coverage line.